So if you're thinking about moving to Denver, Colorado, before you pack your bags, you definitely want to watch this video where I go over 10 tips, things that I think as a 40+ year Colorado native are really important to consider. And these are things that you probably haven't seen on another video. So you make sure you guys stick around till the end, especially 9 and 10, which I think are really, really important to consider, again, before moving out here to the Mile High City. But before we get started, as always, my name is Adam Lang. I'm a licensed realtor here in Denver, Colorado. As much as I like making videos just like this one, what I really enjoy is just connecting with you guys. So all that info, my phone number, my email, we'd love to connect with you guys. Feel free to reach out. Even if you're not serious about moving right now, I guarantee I can provide some value to you. And I would just love the chance to connect and learn a little bit more about you. But again, today is gonna be all about moving to Denver, specifically 10 tips that you probably don't know about yet. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's jump right into it. Starting off with my first tip. This one's really important, and this one is talking about the different cultural differences in the various parts of Denver. You know, it's really cool. I think it's one of the best parts about Denver is how much diversity there is from one neighborhood to the other. And I'll just use one quick example just to make this point a little bit more clear. So I lived in the Sloan Lake area for a long time, and Sloan Lake is on the west side of downtown Denver, right in between basically the mountains and downtown Denver. And it is a very historical, very diverse part of Denver. And what I loved about living over there is actually the areas that are in the Sloan Lake and Highlands area, but also just a little bit north of there in Sunnyside, is we have a really, really deep influence of both Hispanic and Mexican influence, as well as Italian. You know, check out, I actually have a really cool 2025 locals guide that I put together. It's got a ton more info on my favorite restaurants, bars, parks, all that good stuff. I'll put the link down below. But one example of this that I have in my guide is Gaetano's. Gaetano's is this really famous Italian restaurant. Frank Sinatra, all these old, historic, just amazing icons used to eat there. There's even these like tunnels and like underground areas where they used to hang out and talk about who knows what. But there's just all this deep-rooted cultural, just awesome stuff in every different part of Denver. You have different stuff like this. So just one example right there with the Sloan Lake and that western side of town. But I think something that really highlights the Mile High City here in Denver is how we do have a lot of diversity in the different parts of town. The second point I want to share with you, and this one's a little bit more of a negative than the first, and this one is just to be prepared for year-round construction. Since Denver is such a growing and very popular place to live these days, you're going to find construction no matter what month of the year you're traveling in. And this is not just for Denver, but also for the mountains. And you know, when it's done, the construction is obviously a blessing, and we're glad that have the improvements being made, but when we're kind of in the thick of it, it can be quite a pain. One example of this for the mountains is on I-70, which is just the main thoroughfare, the highway that you're gonna take to get up to all the different great ski hills. Right now, we're dealing with a major expansion of a section of I-70 to allow just traffic to get through a big corner that exists that has been notorious for creating a huge bogged down backup of traffic, especially going up to the ski hill in the mornings on the weekends. And then also it's even affecting people that are coming home after a full day of skiing in the afternoons. And actually, to be honest with you, it's not just ski season, it's year round now where this is really, this pinch point on the I-70 highway has really caused a lot of headache. So they've been busy improving this, which is awesome. But it's taking a few years, and during this, there is some serious construction. In fact, I was coming home from my cabin a few weeks ago, and they even had sections of the highway that were just totally being closed. It was like 45 minutes where you could go one direction, then they would close that direction for 45 minutes and allow the other direction to go through. So you hit this at the wrong time, you might be waiting, 45 minutes just to get get on through this section of highway. So this kind of stuff just exists right now, and it's, I think, always going to exist. But it can be quite a headache, and it's something that, if you're considering moving to a city, might be worth, keeping on your radar if that's something that just really does bother you. So something to think about. All right, so number 3, this is another positive, is just how awesome Denver is when it comes to exploring the food scene here in Denver. Denver has, I think in the past, maybe not been known as much for its food scene. And it is something that I think is one of the biggest, I think, growing, popular aspects of Denver that makes it so great nowadays. And, there's a lot that I can go into on this, and I'll keep it brief, but just one little example of this would be, as I've said in a lot of other videos, I used to live in the Sloan Lake area. And one of the best parts about being on that side of town is I would go on Federal Boulevard, which is a north-south road that just hugs right next to I-25. It actually goes right by the Broncos Stadium, and that's where I lived in Sloan Lake area. But I would take it just about a mile or two south, and in this section of Federal Boulevard, there are a ton of Vietnamese restaurants. It's like this little, like a Chinatown, but for Vietnamese restaurants, local markets, all kinds of stuff. And it was just super, super cool to be able to just hop in my car, drive 5 to 7 minutes south of me, and literally have my choice of probably 30 or 40 of the most, traditional, authentic restaurants that you can think of for the pho type food, as well as dumplings and dim sum, just you name it. So many great options, as well as these awesome markets that you could go into and get all kinds of seasonings and spices and things that you probably can't get at a Whole Foods or at a regular grocery store, but they are available here in these different, very cool cultural little hot spots when it comes to the food scene. Obviously we also have a ton of 5-star Michelin restaurants at this point here in Denver, and there's just a ton of popularity and just a lot of money being invested into improving the options for people like yourselves and myself as well, for finding out, what the next best restaurant is to check out and cross off your list. So definitely a huge, I think, perk and a huge bonus to Denver right now is the great food scene we have here. All right, so point number 4 is you gotta know that the seasons aren't what you're maybe expecting. And this comes down to just every season, you can really get caught off guard and have it be snowing in May or June, or it might be, a sunny, beautiful 60-degree day in December. And the latter, the 60-degree day in December, actually just happened to me a few days ago, where I was expecting, crummy weather, and it ended up being this beautiful day where I could have worn shorts in December. If you're not that familiar with Denver and Colorado, in the wintertime here, that's not a very common thing to see. And, Denver is typically in the 20s and 30s. So, it's just awesome in Denver how we have this variety and just opportunity to, kind of keep things interesting and keep us appreciating what we have, because this past couple days ago when it was 60, it was just crazy how many people were out and about. I saw, just a ton of people out running in shorts and a t-shirt, walking their dog. I felt like the roads were a lot busier because a lot of people were probably out just doing fun things at the different parks and all that good stuff. So just want to make the point that Colorado, it just has an amazing variety of weather year round. Every season has great things about it. And it's one of the reasons why I still live here is I love just having it always changing. Every season we have something to look forward to, new hobbies, new projects that we're working on, all that good stuff. And before I move on to my next point, just want to also share with you guys, if you click the link down below in the show notes, I have this brand new locals guide that I put together, and it's got over 20 of my favorite neighborhoods, but also some of the best restaurants and bars and parks, all this kind of stuff that you can enjoy depending on what season you're in and what you're trying to accomplish. So make sure you guys check that out. It's completely free and just something I put together as another valuable resource for you guys when you consider if Denver is the right spot for you. So number 5 is all about the entrepreneurial spirit that Denver has nowadays. And what I wanted to talk quickly about on this point is how Denver really is becoming an area that just really embraces entrepreneurship. You're going to be finding a lot of locally owned businesses here in Denver. And on top of that, it also is a great city when it comes to shared workspaces and just embracing that a lot of people today are working remotely or maybe wanting to go to a coffee shop or to a WeWork or a shared workspace where they're able to still get out in the public and, mingle and be social while achieving whatever entrepreneurial businesses that they're trying to get off the ground and started. My previous career before I was in real estate was I had a chain of kind of random, but I had a chain of tanning salons. It had 5 locations all over Denver and also up in the mountains in Aspen and Glenwood Springs. But what I loved about Denver is I had this great network of other like-minded people that I was able to tap into and use for inspiration, as well as just solving different problems that I was faced with that all these other entrepreneurs were also having similar challenges with. And we were able to collaborate and just really, I think, succeed together. And I think that is something that is probably not that common in other cities, but Denver I thought was something that I want to share with you guys. I think it's one of the better places in America right now when it comes to just embracing that creative spirit, that entrepreneurial mindset. And if that might be you, I definitely think this is a spot that you could find a lot of like-minded people and really find a lot of success in. All right, so number 6, I want to talk just a little bit about altitude. This is a topic that obviously are in a lot of other YouTube videos and just, research. When you research online, you're going to find other, talking points on altitude. But what I wanted to share with you guys today about this is just how it's not only for people that are going up to the mountains, it affects a lot of people that just are living in Denver. The Mile High City phrase that I often use in my videos, that's referring to Denver. Its altitude in Denver, the elevation is 5,280 feet, a mile high. So even here, if you're coming from sea level, can be enough to really notice some of the effects. Maybe not as much as when you go up to the higher elevations in the mountain towns, but definitely something still to be aware of. The biggest tips I always give my friends when they're out visiting is just to drink as much water as you possibly can. If you don't already have this as a goal, trying to drink at least a gallon of water a day. I think that is the easiest and best way to avoid any sort of altitude sickness. But also just when it comes to sports and just your healthy, active lifestyle that hopefully you have, if you're able to, go out for a run every morning as part of your routine, instead of running 3 miles, you might only be able to run 2.5 before feeling that same level of exhaustion. Or maybe you're on an intramural soccer team and you come out here and realize, man, I'm out of shape. Well, it might just be that altitude. So drinking a lot of water and just trying to be as healthy as you can will be the 2 things that really can help you with minimizing this. And it may not affect you, but I still wanted to mention that as one of my points today about things to consider before moving here to Denver. So number 7, just want to talk for a minute about getting familiar with Denver's public transportation. Denver is really doing a good job recently with having this be a main focal point of how they're improving the city. We've always had in the past RTD, which is our rapid transit, just our bus system throughout all of Denver. And that still exists. And I think that's still a great option for a lot of people, depending on what part of town you live in. But then we also have light rail. And light rail is just our train system that also provides a ton of people with a great ability to commute to and from work, or even just to get to different places. Maybe if they're having a few drinks before a concert or before the Broncos or Colorado Rockies baseball game, whatever that it might be. Just the ability now to really rely on the public transportation system. They're always improving this, and in fact, we're almost to the point where C470 on the kind of the northwest side of Denver, and as well as a little bit on the northeast, will be also able to access with the light rail system, where it'll really be almost a complete circle where there'll be access on all 4 quadrants of Denver. So something that I think is always going to be a big resource for people, especially as the congested roads in some cases might get worse and worse and worse. Hopefully more people will start to rely on this. And just a little bit of a teaser here. It's been talked about for years, but it sounds like, in my personal opinion, just as a local and Colorado native, at some point I do think this is going to happen. And that is creating some form of public transit all the way up to at least the first few ski hills. Silverthorne, for example, is where you can access Arapahoe Basin and Keystone, and even kind of a back way to Breckenridge Ski Resort. And I think at some point they're going to have a light rail line, light rail route going from Denver all the way up to some of the ski hills. And I think that would be a great way to keep a few less people on the highway and hopefully minimize some of that traffic for the daily commute, or for the people in cars that are commuting to the ski hills. And I think just a great way to get up there. We don't have to be so worried about the traffic and can kind of relax a little bit and maybe to socialize with your friends who you're going up to take a few turns with on the mountain. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen anytime soon. The last I heard about it, it was like 2000, I think it's 2050. So, maybe for your kids or your grandkids, but still something to keep in mind, and I think something that's really going to provide a lot of value whenever that day hopefully does come. So number 8 is just learning how there's definitely some challenges and some headaches and frustrations when it comes to parking. And I think once you do hopefully move out here, learning some of these insider hacks, these insider tricks to where to park and where to just be able to minimize this frustration and headache. I put this in here because this is just something that always bothers me. You know, if I'm going to certain parts of Denver, I'm always a little bit hesitant and just kind of, I don't know, I don't want to be pessimistic, but just avoiding, or at least just kind of not, looking forward to, going to certain parts of Denver because it can be such a pain in the butt when it comes to parking. In the past, when I was younger, this always existed in the downtown area, where you'd have to rely on usually using a parking lot that's charging you 15 or 20 bucks, or just trying to find a place on the street that might have a 2-hour limit and you're only gonna be there for 3 hours, so then you have to deal with running back out to your meter and putting more money in. Just a pain. I hate that. That's one of the things that just always bugged me about going to certain parts of downtown Denver. But nowadays, that really does exist in a lot of other areas too, and it's not just downtown. So I think when you do move out here, hopefully, you are gonna be able to start to establish some kind of hacks, some insider tricks to avoid this. And one of them is utilizing the public transit, parking at one of these major free, large covered parking garages where you can then jump on the light rail and get closer to where you wanna go. This is really common with people that are going out to Denver International Airport. And it's also really popular for people going to different sporting events. The one other example that I'll share with you guys too is, it's a little bit different, but same concept here, is Red Rocks Amphitheater. So if you guys are live music fans at all, and if you don't know about Red Rocks, get outside of the rock you've been under. But I think, Red Rocks is an area that most people know about at this point. One of the best music venues in the entire world. And one thing that's a challenge though is they do not allow overnight parking up at the actual lots around Red Rocks. And let's be honest here, most people that are going to Red Rocks, a lot of them are probably planning on drinking and partying and having a little bit of fun for the show. And some people, would prefer just to leave their car there overnight. Don't do that, you're gonna get towed, or at least a pretty hefty ticket. But what's even more been a pain in the butt recently is they've only allocated one area for all of the shared Lyft. So all of the Ubers and all of the Lyfts are all picking people up in one place, which has caused this crazy just line of people waiting to get their Uber. As you can imagine, after the concert, everybody's kind of a little bit maybe not 100% themselves. They're still partying a little bit. It becomes a little bit of a chaotic environment. So if you are a local, you might have an insider hack, and I'm gonna share one with you guys. Don't tell all your friends. But one of my best friends who's a concert fanatic, he goes to a ton of shows and I try and go with him as often as I can. One trick that we do recently is, instead of waiting for that long line of Lyft and Uber people to pick you up, you can actually walk from Red Rocks down to Morrison, the town of Morrison, which is about a 15 to 30 minute walk depending on your pace and just where exactly you're going from. There's different places in Red Rocks, the upper lot, the lower lot, all these different areas in Red Rocks. But you can walk from Red Rocks down to Morrison. It's a really nice stroll. It's downhill the entire way. If it's nice weather, it's a really good way just to kind of enjoy being, away from the crazy amount of people that you're gonna be around in the show, as well as, if you have had a few drinks, maybe a way to kind of sober up a little bit as you take this walk down to Morrison. So we'll walk down to Morrison. We'll maybe have a drink at the bar there and then just call an Uber from there, and no issues at all. Uber will be able to come right there, meet you out front, and you're on your way. So just an example of some of these things that you're not gonna know about until you're a local, or at least you've moved out and been here for a while, but there are some strategies and some ways to avoid some of this that otherwise can be a little bit of a headache. All right, so number 9, the housing market is super competitive in Denver, and I think it always will be, especially for buyers, and that's to no exception at the moment going into 2025. And what I want to share on this point is how there's definitely some creative ways to think outside of the box and still succeed if you are somebody that's maybe getting frustrated with just the limited opportunities that you're finding on Zillow and other internet listing sites for homes that are currently available and maybe options for you to purchase. So 2 things that I'll share on this point really quick. The first one is, if you reach out to somebody like myself a licensed realtor that has really good connections, I have a lot of off-market opportunities, as well as just really understand where you might be able to find new build communities, so new construction homes that aren't maybe advertising yet on these internet listing sites, but have homes that you could still potentially get your foot in the door and be the first to kind of reserve a specific home, or at least know about ahead of other people that are only relying on Zillow and these search sites. You know, last year, that statistic was pretty high. I think it was like 45% of all homes purchased in Denver were new build communities. So this is a huge chunk, a huge section of the homes that are being purchased are new builds. And this is a whole separate dynamic, a different way to navigate the buying process. And it also is something that is a little bit more, I think, challenging or at least intimidating if you don't know anything about new build communities. So definitely want you guys, just another quick plug, I have a new construction guide that I put together earlier this year that's super helpful if this might be something you're considering. So the link is going to be down below in the show notes. It's free. Just download a free copy and I'll go a little bit more in depth there. If you have specific questions, always reach out as well. So, but I think definitely worth considering new construction, and then also look into creative ways that you might be able to find for sale by owners and just other off-market opportunities. And the only way to do that is by reaching out to a local and somebody that really has a good feel and understanding of the area, like myself. So reach out. All right, and then last but not least, number 10, this is the one that I kind of teased at the very beginning of the video, and something I'm really, really excited about is that you can really take advantage in Denver with the extensive trail system that they've been constantly improving upon. And nowadays, it is awesome. I think this is one of the coolest new values of Denver is this trail system. And when I say trail system, I'm referring to paved or at least very well maintained sidewalks and trails that you can take advantage of to get exercise and walk your dog, or just to, enjoy being outdoors. And let's be honest, that's why we're all living here in Colorado, is to be a healthy, active lifestyle. And Denver is really embracing this, and I think very intentionally improving this. So a couple of things I'll share with you guys. First one is the Highline Canal Trail has been around for a long time. And this is a great option if you're a cyclist. You can also walk the Highline Canal, but especially for cyclists, what I love about this is it is a continuous paved trail where you're never gonna have to deal with waiting at stoplights or dealing with street traffic, cars. You can basically just be on this Highline Canal Trail and just be a little bit more in the zone, maybe with your headphones in, or at least just focused on cycling and enjoying yourself and not worrying about getting hit by a car or just having to be in a really good heart rate and you're really, doing a great job, and then you have to stop and wait for a bunch of traffic to, for the stoplight to change so you can get across some busy intersection. So the Highline Canal Trail is the first one, but the more exciting one is something that just finished at the end of 2024, and it's called the Denver Orbital Trail System, and it is awesome. It is this brand new, there's 28 sections, and it literally has a complete full experience of all of Denver. So you literally could do the entire 28 circuit and see the entire city of Denver. This is something you can't do in a day. This is actually a very long, extensive trail system. It's a couple 100 miles long. And just, as a suggestion, maybe this could be something that you put on your bucket list or on your, your goals for the next year to try and accomplish maybe the entire circuit, or maybe at least start knocking off different sections of it. So at one point you can say that you've done the entire thing. And if you aren't that familiar with Denver, I think this will just be one of the coolest ways to experience it and to really explore in a more structured way, where over time you could have a very solid understanding of all of Denver. Probably more than I do at the moment, just because you're gonna be on foot and seeing all of Denver through this orbital trail system. So check that out. All right, so I hope you guys had some value out of this video today. I know it went kind of quick. I wanted to make sure I got through all 10 of these tips and just things to keep in mind if you're considering moving to Denver in 2025. And just to recap what all 10 of these were, so starting with number 1, we talked about neighborhood vibes and how it really can be significantly different in one area than the next. So to keep that in mind as you start your home search and what areas might best fit your needs. Number two, we talked about construction season and how instead of just being one time of the year, like in the summer, nowadays it really is year round. You're always gonna have areas in Denver that are seeing construction delays and just affecting the traffic and just the ability to get around town. Number three, we talked about the food scene and how that's one of my favorite new improvements that I'm seeing in Denver is just all of the variety of opportunities to try different types of foods, and even that really cool area on Federal Boulevard with all the Vietnamese restaurants and culture. Super, super excited to see that be something that Denver is continuing to get better and better about. Number four, we talked just about the winter weather and more specifically just how every season in Denver really can catch you off guard with both really nice, but also sometimes really bad weather. I shared how just a couple days ago in the middle of winter, it was 60 degrees and practically shorts weather. So just understanding how Denver really can catch you off guard if you're not careful. Number five, we talked about this, how Denver is really embracing the entrepreneurial spirit, how there are so many entrepreneurs here in Denver that are really hardworking, but also creative and willing to kind of co-work with each other. You know, a lot of co-work shared workspaces that are popping up in Denver, as well as just the social scene and being able to find other like-minded people if you are an entrepreneur and this is important to you. We also talked about the altitude and just how this can be something that affects people even if you're not thinking about it, and not just going up to the mountains and feeling it up there, but also just even in Denver, since we are at a mile high, 5,280 feet. Talked about the public transit system and how this is another really good improving, just I think highlight of Denver is how we are getting much better when it comes to our RTD bus system as well as our light rail, and how we are almost to the point where the entire city of Denver has access to the light rail system. Also talked about parking hacks and just how once you do become a local here and just spend some time living in Colorado and in Denver, how you really are able to start identifying ways to, avoid some of these challenges with parking. I mentioned how I used to just really dislike going to downtown Denver because of how challenging it was to find a place to park, whereas nowadays you can find other easy places to park and take a quick light rail into Denver and not have to worry about it. So definitely something that's really drastically improving. Then we also talked about the competitive housing market and just how this is something that is really big on a lot of my friends and my clients and viewers on YouTube's minds when it comes to just feeling challenged and sometimes overwhelmed on the lack of being able to succeed in Denver's buyer's market today, how we have a lot of new construction opportunities as well as off-market deals that you probably don't even know about unless you connect with a local and a realtor that knows this kind of stuff like I do. So reach out if that might be you. And then last but not least, the last thing that we shared today in this video, number 10, is how we have these incredible trail systems that are always something that's been out there and available, but now we're taking it up a notch. This brand new Denver orbital system, that 28 circuit trail system that just got completed in the end of 2024. So it's brand new and something not that many people know about. So hopefully you guys can put that on your bucket list and maybe start to explore some of the 28 different sections of that trail system. Woo! So now that you're equipped with all of these great tips that we shared today, hopefully you're ready to take action and maybe, consider coming out here to Denver. If that might be you, I would love the opportunity to take you around for a day. A lot of my YouTube clients, they'll reach out to me via the info that I'm putting on the screen down below. And then when they come out here, we spend a day or maybe even a couple or a few days together. Hop in my car, I'll take you around. I'll, just kind of be your tour guide for the day and really just show you the different areas and neighborhoods of Denver. And that's always the first step to really identifying, what best maybe fits your lifestyle and what you're looking for. And then from there, I can start to help you guys if you are considering buying a home, really understand, what options are out there and hopefully figure out a few ways to help you succeed. So excited to share all of that with you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching another episode of Living in Denver. My name is Adam, and I really enjoy making these videos, but even more, just want to help provide value in any way that I can. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you next time on a brand new episode of Living in Denver. I'll see you then.